Om Savakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Savakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Avatar Varishtaya Ramakrishna Yate Nama Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us bow down to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to the Supreme Spirit to lead us from unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Today's topic: concentration of the mind. People aspire for success. The key to success is concentration. Whether it is with respect to secular life or with respect to spiritual life, concentration is the key to success. That means we must have definite control over the function of the mind. The mind should be kept in a very systematic way in order to have the benefit of concentration. Because mind is bundle of thoughts. Stop thinking and show me then where is the mind. This statement was made by one of the great saints, sages of India in modern times, Sri Ramana Maharshi. He experimented on himself to find out who was he. Who am I was a target of Ramana Maharshi. He found out the truth. He found out who he was, The result was he was in perfect peace and bliss. That means he got liberated while still alive in this physical frame. What we call Jivan Mukti. Achieving liberation while you are in this world, while you are alive, while you are active, while you are conscious of your senses and the mind, how they do function. That is greatness. One of the great acharyas, Sri Shankaracharya, who advocated the path of knowledge, he vehemently said, the purpose of human life is to achieve liberation while you are in this life. That's a remarkable statement. He did that statement to show that liberation is not a myth, it is not a fiction, it is not imagination or a dream, it is the fact. As long as we have not attained liberation, we cannot overcome sorrow and suffering, even if we have the whole wealth of the world at our disposal. So, it means the power of the mind manifests itself only in the thinking process. I can experience action through the mind. The mind is nothing more than a collection, the sum total of thoughts. Whatever we perceive through our senses in this world, everything goes into the mind to create impression which comes later on in the form of thoughts. That means how important the most subtle instrument God has endowed human beings, and how carelessly we handle the mind. All our misery, all the suffering is because of mishandling our mind. If you know how to handle the mind properly, you are sure to be in peace, in happiness. You are to know how to discipline the mind, how to train the mind, how to develop the mind properly. All these steps are very, very important. If you want to have the good result, certainly you must know how to handle the mind. So, the mind is the thoughts which have already been had. Secondly, the thoughts now in our minds. And thirdly, the thoughts which will come into our consciousness in the future are of those who will live on after our departure. The eternal bundle of thoughts, as Ramana Maharshi tells us, remains. We always carry this bundle wherever we go. A person might have died. He would be getting another birth, but he will be carrying the bundle of thoughts along with him. Whatever he has done, in whatever manner, everything is stored up in the mind in the form of impressions to show up later on in the form of thoughts. He is carrying that bundle with him all the time. Experience will show that how it is very necessary to give proper attention to the training of the mind. Another important factor is the mind doesn't have an independent existence, unaffected by the attitude of beings able to think. That means the man is able to conquer the mind and to direct it according to his own will. The mind is a finite and hence limited quantity. Therefore, it can be controlled. In essence, the mind is rather like a neutral sort of energy, not evil, not good. Mind always likes to vibrate, no matter whether these vibrations, that is thoughts, are considered by beings like ourselves to be either good or bad. Now here, vasanas, in Sanskrit it's called, meaning impressions, they enter the picture. Predisposition is the filter which allows certain kinds of vibrations endowed with these impressions to enter the brain's consciousness, while at the same time it drives other kinds of thoughts and feelings from the doorway of our consciousness. Therefore, a saint would not be impressed by the dirty astral or mental atmosphere of a hotel bar, while a man who is prey to his impressions would be fully influenced and would expand them by the work of his imagination and emotions. In this way, a ripe soul will immediately and intuitionally discover the greatness of a saint or a master of wisdom, whereas an unripe person might easily pass them by without any visible reaction, as in a dream. One of the Upanishads declares, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho bandhaya vishaya saktam muktam nirvishayam smratam. It's a famous statement of the Amrita Bindu Upanishad. It means mind is the cause of person's bondage and also of his liberation. Very important statement. The mind, when stained by passion, is the cause of bondage, and of liberation when pure, devoid of passion and ignorance. So man is in a position to separate himself from his mind, from that mere bundle of thoughts. Moreover, by this fact itself, he can select his own kind of thoughts. Both bondage and liberation are nowhere save within you. You have to work out yourself what you want to achieve. Which of them do you accept and invite, and which do you reject and repel? That's what no one else can know or do for you except yourself. Just as no one can take medicine in order that you may be cured. If you are suffering, you have to take the drug and be free from the suffering of disease. Another important point we should know before entering into the topic concentration of the mind. There are 5 yoga bhumicas, stages of the mind. One is kshipta state, that is distracted. Second one is mudha state, a state of dullness. Third one is a vikshipta state, that means slightly tossing. And finally, ekagra state, one-pointedness. And that is the fourth one. The fifth one, the last one, is nirudha state, that means controlled or well restrained. So these are the 5 stages of the mind. By gradual and well-regulated practice of concentration daily, the rays of the wandering mind are controlled. It becomes one-pointed. Eventually, it comes under proper control. In the state of kshipta, that is when the mind is in distracted state, what happens? Thoughts come up on the mind in various ways. Mind jumps from one thing to another. It keeps on jumping. It behaves virtually like a monkey. Mind is ordinarily very restless. Moment to moment, it keeps on changing. This is a state of activity, and the mind runs after so many pleasures of the world. It is not satisfied by anything. Keeps on running and running, becomes mad after them. Mad. But no real peace or happiness can be found while it is in this scattered state. This is the most disgusted state of the mind. When the mind is scattered in different directions, that's the hopeless state of the mind. In the state of mudha, dullness, one is tending towards laziness, and he is sluggish. He doesn't want to do anything. He will be more or less inactive. Not only that, he is indiscriminative, and he injures others, hurting all the time people, hurting. The moment that person talks, it only hurts. Because the mind is not engaged in a healthy way. It is in a very bad shape. So the person behaves erratically. The third stage, Vikshipta state, in which we struggle to centralize the mind, but without success. When we don't find satisfaction either in the scattered or dull state of the mind, then we begin to struggle for some higher form. We are struggling. So Vikshipta state is a struggling state. We want to get over the Kshipta state and Mudha state, and so we struggle very hard. If we persevere in the struggle, then we reach the state of Ekagra. That means one-pointedness. The whole mind is focused, gathered. The gathered mind is wonderful. It has got tremendous power. So Ekagra state is a state when the mind is one-pointed. Only when the mind arrives at this state do we attain to superconsciousness and become free forever. The first three states, Kshipta, Mudha and Vikshipta, they are not fitted to bring spiritual realization. But in the last stage, through the power of concentration, we can collect all our mental and physical energies and direct them toward the highest realization. There is another quotation from Upanishad. Om Vangme Manasi Pratisthita Manome Vachi Pratisthitama Viravirma Edhi Vedasya Ma'anistaha Shutam Mema Prahasir Anenadhi Nahoratran Sandhadami Ritam Vradishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tad Vaktaramavatu Vavatumamavatu Vaktaramavatu Vaktaram. This is a famous peace chant of the Upanishad. It means my speech is rooted in my mind. My mind is rooted in my speech. Brahman, reveal thyself to me. Ye mind and speech enable me to grasp the truth the scriptures teach. Let what I have heard slip not from me. I join day with night in study. I think the truth, I speak the truth. May that protect me. May that protect the teacher. Protect me, protect the teacher. Peace, peace. In Yoga Sutra, it has been well defined. You know Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali Maharshi? Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. 8 limbs. Each limb is very important. Each limb represents a definite stage in the spiritual development, in culturing the mind. The 6th state is called Dharana, which is our subject matter today. Dharana means concentration. Concentration is the binding of the mind to one place, object or idea. That's what Patanjali Maharshi has discovered and put it in the form of the aphorism, Deshabandhas Chittasya Dharana. Deshabandhas Chittasya Dharana. Concentration is the binding of the mind to one place, object or idea. That means when the total mind is being bound by one thing or bound in one place, it is said to be in concentration. In other words, in concentration, you are training the mind. So concentration, therefore, is the beginning of meditation. Meditation is the culmination of concentration. Normally, we see our mind running here and there, helter-skelter. When you try to fix it on one thing, within a fraction of a second you see it somewhere else. You don't want to, but it goes. Because it knows you are controlling, it becomes more rebellious. It will see whether you have got sufficient control over it or not. If you are weak, it overpowers you. Let us study an example. Suppose you want to fix the mind on a beautiful flower, say rose. Keep a rose flower in front of you to begin with, because it is easier for the mind to concentrate upon the object. Concrete objects, symbols or idols, these are all very helpful for our beginning practice. It is not that easy for the mind to grasp something abstract or even to visualize something. So, keep a rose or a candle flame or a portrait in front of you. If it is an idea on which you wish to concentrate, at least have something physical to remind you of that. While you look at this object, think of the idea connected with it. This is where the practice of tratak or gazing also comes. Gazing at something, that means you must gaze without blinking. But don't strain the eyes. Just look at your object as long as you can. You will be able to look longer if you put your mind on the idea behind the object. How beautiful it is. What a great gift has come from a thorny bush. Thinking that way, if you gaze on that rose flower, it's easy to concentrate upon. Like that, associated ideas will come in. When you get involved in those things, even the gaze will be forgotten. But you will still be gazing without blinking. Don't try to gaze for the purpose of gazing. If you do that, the eyes will get tired quickly. After a while, you can gently close the eyes and try to bring a mental picture of your object of concentration. First it is outside, then you try to bring it within the mind. It might come for a while and then you lose it. Again, open the eyes. Slowly learn to grasp it within the mind alone. That means by constantly looking at the object and thinking of that in the mind, you will be developing that impression in your mind. You are creating an impression, a strong impression in the mind. By repeatedly doing this practice, the impression becomes more strong and then it becomes useful to you later on. It is something like in photography, you take a picture, it is there on the film. How do you know whether it is there or not? You develop it. If nothing comes, you have to make another picture. It is the same way with the practice of gazing. As you think, so you become. So how very important it is what we think. If you think of the rose, the mind will take the form of the rose. After a while, you will easily be able to see it without the aid of any physical objects outside. All this is part of dharana, concentration. As you look at the rose, the mind will try to go somewhere else. The minute you begin, the mind will say, oh, I remember my friend sent me a good rose like that for my last birthday. How nice it was. So now what happened? The rose is gone from your mind, the friend is there. And then he begins to think little further. After that we had a dinner. It was the best dinner I had in my lifetime. Then I went to the basketball match with a friend. The match was very good. Very nice to look the match. All this will happen in 2 minutes. What happened? From the rose to basketball game. Even less than 2 minutes probably. All these things occur in the mind. So, what are you meditating now? Not on a rose, but on a basketball match. Many people tend to think, oh, I am unfit for meditation. Because I am not able to keep my mind at one point. It keeps on running. The more I try, the more it runs. It is not for me. That's the biggest mistake we do. People think that the minute they sit and close their eyes, everything should be beautiful. If the mind runs here and there, immediately they conclude, oh, meditation is not for me. But you must know, everything is to be achieved through constant practice. Suppose you want to learn piano learning, how much you have to sit in front of the piano and keep on playing the keys. again and again. I have seen people, when they learn music, how many times they keep on repeating. At least 200, 300 times one song they repeat. 200, 300 times. Then only it becomes perfect. That means keep trying, keep practicing it. It means perseverance. You must persevere. Again, Patanjali Maharshi says in the Yoga Sutra, Satu dirgha kala nairantarya satkaras sevito tridabhumihi. They are all very nicely classified and put. How nice it is for us just to look into that and just follow it up. All the research work has been done by the Mahatmas. Again, you don't have to scratch your energy towards that end. They have done it. Simply follow. Even that following, we are not able to do it. We have become so weak. We look strong outwardly, but in reality, it's just opposite. Patanjali says in that sutra, practice becomes firmly grounded when well attended for a long time without break and in all earnestness. The first qualification for the practice is that it should be done for a long time. Dirgha kala. Not simply doing 1 day, 2 days and immediately have some evaluation, or it is like that. No, you can't evaluate like that. Unfortunately, we just want the result immediately. If I ask you to repeat a mantram and tell you that you will become more peaceful and realize beautiful things within, you will go back immediately and repeat it for 3 days, and then you will call me, Sir, I have repeated it for 3 days but nothing has happened. Maybe this is not a suitable mantram for me. Can you give me another? Here, that's what Patanjali Math says. Dirgha kala. For a long time, you have to practice. Long time. It does not say how long. It depends upon your infrastructure of the mind. If your mind is too terrible, you must take too long a time. Then, it should be done without break. Without break. People say, we have been practicing yoga for the past 10 years, but we are still the same. How often? Off and on. So it must be continuous practice also. And another qualification which the Patanjali Maharshi has said, in all earnestness. That means with full attention, with the entire application of your mind, and with full faith in your achievement. Even when you want something or somebody on the worldly level, you will be after it day and night. You don't sleep, you don't even eat, you are always at it. If this quality is necessary to achieve even worldly success, how much more so for success in spiritual life? So let us not be like kids who sow a seed today and dig it up tomorrow to see how much the root went down. We need all these three qualities: patience, devotion, and faith. There's a wonderful story in the Hindu scriptures which is very relevant for our topic of today. Though you know the story, still I tell in order to draw the exact teaching of this story. You know, Narad was a great rishi. He could travel anywhere in the universe. He can travel anywhere, all over the world. One day he was passing through a forest. He came across a yogi. He was meditating well under a tree. He had been meditating there so long, the ants had built up an ant hill around his body. That yogi could see Narad passing in front of him. Immediately curiosity occurred. So he asked him a question. Sir, will you please tell me where are you going now? Narad immediately answered, oh, I am going to Kailas. I am going to see Lord Shiva. I can go anywhere. I can go to Vishnu. I can go to Krishna. I can go to Shiva. Now I am going to Kailas. I have got something to talk to. Then this yogi asked, could you please do some favor for me? All right. What do you want? Could you find out from the Lord how many more births I must meditate in this way? I have been sitting here for pretty a long time. So will you please find out the time schedule? Sure. I will let you know. Then Narad continued his walking in the forest. After some distance, he saw another spiritual aspirant. He was of a different type. He was not meditating. He was singing and dancing. He was in great joy. He saw Narad going in front of him, and immediately he also asked the same question, where are you going? And he said, I am going to Kailas. Well, that's great. Could you please find out for how long I have to be here like this? When will I get liberation? Narad said, yes, surely I will find out. I will represent your case. Well, Narad went. After many years, he came back in the same route. The yogi recognized him and immediately he talked. Well, I have not had any answer from you. Did you go to Kailas? What did Lord say? He was very eager to know the answer. Narad said, well, I asked Lord Shiva, but the Lord said, you will have to take 4 more births to accomplish your goal. 4 more times you have to be born. Immediately the yogi lamented. Another 4 births? Haven't I waited long enough? Still I have to be born again 4 times. Then Narad came to another person. The spiritual aspirant was singing and dancing. He also was very curious to know the answer. Hey, what happened? Did you get any news about me? Narad said, yes. Straight away, Narad did not give the answer to this spiritual aspirant. He spoke to me in a different way. He said, well, Can you count the leaves of the tamarind tree? You know the tamarind tree is there? Yes. Can you count how many leaves are there? Sure. I have the patience to do it. Do you want me to count them right away? Narada said, no, no, no. You can take your time to count. The aspirant asked, but what has that got to do with my question? Why you are telling this way? Narada replied, well, I talked about you. Then the aspirant immediately said, oh, is that all? So at least it's a limited number then. I know. Now, where it ends, that's fine. I can quickly finish it off. Thank God that he did not say the leaves of the entire forest. So he was very hopeful. Hitherto he had no hope whether he would get his goal achieved. But Narad gave him the hope. Well, I have got a hope now. He did not complain. He did not lament. He was more joyful than before, because he got the assurance right away from Narad Maharshi, who had gone to see Lord Shiva. Just then a beautiful chariot came down from Kailas. The messenger said to the aspirant, come on, would you mind getting in? Lord Shiva has sent for you. Right now you have to come. The spiritual aspirant could not believe. He was amazed. I am going to Kailas now? Yes, right now. I have come to take you. The aspirant said, but just now Narada said, I have to take so many more births first. The messenger said, well, it is true, but it seems that you are ready and willing to do that, so why should you wait? Come on. So Lord Shiva's grace immediately flowed upon this man who was having remarkable perseverance, patience. Then the aspirant asked a question. What about that yogi? He knew that yogi was meditating there. The messenger replied, oh, he is not even ready to wait 4 more births. Let him wait and work more. Let him wait and work more. So you can easily see the truth behind this story. If you are that patient, your mind is more settled and what you do will be more perfect. If you are unsettled and anxious to get the result, because of that anxiety, you are already disturbed. Nothing done with that disturbed mind will have quality. So, it is not only how long you practice, but with what patience, what earnestness, and what quality also. So, this very practice itself is called concentration. The mind running, you are bringing it back. It is running, you are bringing it back. That means you are taming a monkey. Once it is tamed, it will just listen to you. You will be able to say, okay, sit there quietly. And it will. At that point, you are meditating. Until then, you are training yourself to meditate. There is only one way to knowledge and wisdom, and that is through the power of concentration. Without this power, nobody can accomplish anything in this world. The students who can concentrate their minds fully on their books are the best students. With the least effort, they accomplish the most. The scientists in the laboratory concentrate all their energies of the mind in one direction, and thus they discover secrets of nature. The astronomer fixes his mind through his telescope on sun, moon, planets and discovers their secrets. He is a good musician who can concentrate his mind on his music. So also with artists and everyone, this is the only road to knowledge. The more we can concentrate our minds on the subject of our study, the more rapidly the knowledge of that subject is revealed to us. There is a famous incident in Mahabharata. You know, Drona was a great teacher of archery. He became the teacher of Kauravas and Pandavas. He taught them how to use arms and missiles. He taught them all the skills very thoroughly. Kauravas side 100, Pandavas 5, total 105. And he had many more students also. Among them, Arjun, one of the Pandavas, his receptive capacity was unequaled. Arjun's range of learning was surprisingly vast. His lightness and skill in using arms surprised even his preceptor. He could fight equally well from on horse and elephant, car and ground. He could wield with equal ease the dart, the lance, the spear, the sword and the mace. He could use all these weapons. He could use many weapons all at once and engage many men in warfare at the same time. He could use his bow by day and by dark night. While others, all the other students excelled in this or that respect, Arjun excelled in all. That was the situation. Now, Yudhishthira was a master of car warfare. Nakul Sahadev, the other Pandavas, they were foremost in sword play. Ashwathama, the Drona's son, his knowledge of the mysteries of the science of arms was astounding. But Arjun was superior to everyone in every respect. He was highly intelligent, unfailingly resourceful, always strong, ever persevering. Arjun's power of concentration was supreme. Anyway, Drona wanted to test all these students. He taught them equally. He gave attention to everyone, taught them everything what he had learnt. Now he wanted to conduct a test. The students had finished the course of their education and now they had to give proof of their attainments. It's a kind of examination for them. Now, on a tree, an artificial bird was placed. This was a target at which the students had to aim and shoot the arrow. When the students assembled, Drona told them to take up the bow, fix the arrow to the bowstring and aim at the bird, and when the turn of each came and the order was given to shoot and cut off the bird's head. Well, one by one was called to do this way. First came Yudhishthir, that is Dharmaraja, the eldest of the Pandavas. He was ready with bow and arrow to shoot as soon as the signal was given. Now, before he gave the shooting order, Drona began to put some questions. Well, do you perceive the bird on the tree? Yes, sir, I see it quite well, he replied. What else do you see? Do you have a sight of the tree, your brothers, your preceptor, your mates? Yes, all this I see quite clearly. Immediately, Drona concluded that he was not qualified. Drona was not satisfied. So he ordered him to go back. And he told him that he lost his chance. That means he failed in the test. That's the result. He was not qualified to release the arrow. Nobody understood why Drona was dissatisfied. Then next turn, Duryodhan, Bhim, one by one all came. To them all, Drona put the same questions and they all failed miserably because they couldn't answer to the satisfaction of Drona. Finally, Arjuna's turn came. He was ready with his bow and arrow, fixed to shoot the target. Now Drona began to put the questions. Do you see the bird? Do you see the tree? Me? Your brothers? Your cousins? Do you see all of this? Arjun replied, no sir, I don't see you or others. I see only the bird, nothing else. If you see the bird, then describe it to me. Drona put the question. Then Arjun said, it is not possible for me to do it. I don't see the bird at all. I see only its head. Because Drona had told to cut off the head of the bird. So the gaze should be at the bird's head. So his concentration was total. And it was one-pointed. The mind was not distracted. The whole mind is focused on the target. The enthralled Drona said, shoot. He gave the order. The next second, the bird's head lay on the ground, struck down by the arrow of the Arjun, which was never known to miss its target. Drona became supremely happy. He embraced him in an exuberance of pride and delight. He was supremely satisfied. Here is my student who stood my specification. He was thoroughly satisfied. This is the case of one who got mastery on account of the power of concentration. There is another incident which is recorded in Swami Vivekananda's life. It is remarkable. During his second visit to America, Swami Vivekananda was staying in a riverside town. One day, he came across a group of young men standing on a bridge over a stream. Seeing some eggshells moving down the stream, the youths tried their skill in gun shooting and made the eggshells their target. They could not hit any of the floating shells. The shells were loosely strung to one another with strings. The Swami watched and smiled at the vain attempts of the young shooters. They asked whether the Swami could shoot at them, at those eggshells, because they felt ashamed. Swamiji was smiling and they wanted to tease Vivekananda whether he could do it. The Swami took the gun and unfailingly hit. The youths tried their skill in gun shooting and made the eggshells their target. They could not hit any of the floating shells. The shells were loosely strung to one another with strings. The Swami watched and smiled at the vain attempts of the young shooters. They asked whether the Swami could shoot at them, at those eggshells, because they felt ashamed. Swamiji was smiling and they wanted to tease Vivekananda whether he could do it. The Swami took the gun and unfailingly hit. The youths tried their skill in gun shooting and made the eggshells their target. They could not hit any of the floating shells. The shells were loosely strung to one another with strings. The Swami watched and smiled at the vain attempts of the young shooters. They asked whether the Swami could shoot at them, at those eggshells, because they felt ashamed. Swamiji was smiling and they wanted to tease Vivekananda whether he could do it. The Swami took the gun and unfailingly hit. The youths tried their skill in gun shooting and made the eggshells their target. They could not hit any of the floating shells. The shells were loosely strung to one another with strings. The Swami watched and smiled at the vain attempts of the young shooters. They asked whether the Swami could shoot at them, at those eggshells, because they felt ashamed. Swamiji was smiling and they wanted to tease Vivekananda whether he could do it. The Swami took the gun and unfailingly hit. The youths tried their skill in gun shooting and made the eggshells their target. They could not hit any of the floating shells. The shells were loosely strung to one another with strings. The Swami watched and smiled at the vain attempts of the young shooters. They asked whether the Swami could shoot at them, at those eggshells, because they felt ashamed. Swamiji was smiling and they wanted to tease Vivekananda whether he could do it. The Swami took